It was probably the clearest voice we heard.
Lisa.
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, go ahead.
Good morning. Welcome to the Taos County Board of County Commissioners regular meetings. Today's Tuesday, February 4th, 2025. Madam Clerk, would you please call roll?
Commissioner Behill? Present. Commissioner Romero?
Present.
Commissioner Brush?
Present.
Vice Chair Romero?
Present.
Chair Mascarenhas?
Present. Please stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the state a symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. Do we have approval of the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
There's been a motion by Commissioner Behill and a second by Commissioner Romero. Madam Clerk, would you please call roll?
Commissioner Behill?
Yes.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner Brush?
Yes.
Vice Chair Romero? Chair Mascarenhas?
Yes, thank you. Moving right along to item number 6, awards and recognitions. Who's that? Go ahead.
Good morning.
Morning.
How are you guys?
Good.
Okay, there we go. So we are a little bit behind, so I'll start with November. Our new hires for November, we have Jocelyn Valerio. She's a collections clerk working in solid waste. We have Aaron Martinez. He's a deputy sheriff cadet. Kevin McCarty, he came in as a deputy sheriff. Cole Giancola, a maintenance technician. Brian Goyas, a firefighter EMT. Kayla Dunkel, firefighter EMT. Lilith Collins, ADC cadet. Jasper Mapes, he came in as a permit technician, but he has recently moved up to the rural addressing technician. Maggie Hart came in as a firefighter EMT. Elizabeth Hampton as a firefighter EMT. We have our Taos County Undersheriff Gabriel Ortiz. Antonio Garcia, maintenance technician. Esteban Valdez, deputy sheriff cadet. And Destiny Elam, administrative assistant in facilities and MIS. And for the month of December, we have Michelle Vados, ADC Corporal, Anthony Esquivel. He came on as a full-time firefighter EMT, and Adam Spack, also as a full-time transfer station attendant. And then for January, we have Vicky V. Hill. She's our records coordinator for Taos County. Manuel Herrera, Jaden Nelson, and Nicholas Hawley, all as deputy cadets. So please help me welcome them to Taos County.
Thank you. Moving right along to item B, retirement certificates. Mr. Arnil.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before we acknowledge our retirees, I'd like to also acknowledge the employees that have had an anniversary in the month of January. We'll start with Frank Lesca, the senior program, celebrating 1 year. Angel Gonzalez is celebrating 1 year. She is at the Fire and Rescue Department. Christopher Madrid celebrated 2 years with the county. And then all of you have celebrated, Commissioner Romero's and Mascareñas all celebrated 2 years with the county. Jason Silva is celebrating 4 years with the county. Miranda Quintana, the Chief Deputy Treasurer, celebrated 4 years. Commissioners Vihil and Brush have just celebrated 4 years. Our Fire Inspector James Hampton is celebrating 6 years. One of our lieutenants at the Fire and Rescue Department, Darian Fernandez, is celebrating 8 years. Lorenzo Gutierrez from Solid Waste is celebrating 9 years. William Brown from the Adult Detention Center is celebrating 12. Gilberto Jaramillo from Facilities Director, he's celebrating 14 years. Elena Romero from our Assessor's Office, Head of the Records Division, she's celebrating 17 years. Duela Romero, also from the Assessor's Office and the Records Division, is celebrating 19 years. Marianne Martinez Gonzalez from the Treasurer's Office is celebrating 22 years. And Cheryl Lucero is also celebrating 22 years. So if you see them, congratulate them on their years of service with the county. This morning, Tomas, Mr. Fernandez, Tomas did let Joe know that he wasn't able to make it. He has a doctor's appointment this morning and he really wanted to be here. So we still take this moment to recognize him and then Joe can pass on the certificate. Certificate of recognition. The certificate is awarded to Thomas Medina. Thank you for your 10 years you've been given to Taos County Public Works Department. For your tireless work ethic, professionalism, and set the tone for the rest of the department. With pride, respect, and love, you will always have a home here. We wish you the best of luck in the future endeavors. Signed, Ronald Mascareñas, Commission Chair, Bartolomeo, County Manager. Tomas also comes to us with experience from the town of Taos, so he has his years in with Paris. Joe, if you could, on behalf of the commission, let Tomas congratulate him on his retirement. And Jason, if you could come forward too. So we have another certificate of recognition, Luella Roberts. Luella has been a station attendant and she wasn't able to make it today too. Luella is kind of a diehard for the county and she's put in her time and she says time to retire and we do wish her the best. Edward wasn't able to be here to pick this up in her behalf, but again, the certificate of recognition is awarded to Luella Roberts, thanking her for her 24 years that she's given to Taos County Solid Waste Department. Her tireless work ethic and professionalism has set the tone for the rest of the department. With pride, respect, and love, she'll always have a home here. We wish Luella the best of luck in all her future endeavors. Thank you. We'll let her know. And I can't believe, come on up, Don. I can't believe this one's retiring. I've known Don a lot of years prior to me working here at the county, and he's a good member of the Cuesta community, of the also the church community as well. He's volunteers a lot of his time, and Don always had a lot of ideas, thoughts that he would always share with myself, the rest of the management team, and he's going to be missed. And I was kind of in shock. I didn't tell you that, Don, when they let me know that you were retiring. But I want to, from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate everything you've done and everything you've tried to do in the assessor's office and make it a better department. And I really appreciate that. Thank you. So the certificate of recognition, the certificate is awarded Don Rael, thank you for your 23 years you've given to Taos County's Assessor's Office. Your tireless work ethic, and professionalism to set the tone for the rest of the department with pride, respect, and love. You allow us to have a home here. We wish you the best of luck in all your future endeavors. Signed, Ronald Mascarenhas, Commission Chair, and Brent Tummy, County Manager. Thank you, Don, for 23 years.
Congratulations to all the retirees out there, and, good luck with whatever you have planned for the next steps. Moving right along to item number 8, public comment. Member of the public wishing to speak shall limit their comments to 3 minutes and no action may be taken. Is there anybody out there that would like to speak?
I'm going to run so I can do my 3 minutes. Lisa O'Brien, Taos Housing Partnership. Happy New Year. Hello, everybody. I'm here not to talk about Taos Housing Partnership per se, but I just wanted to acknowledge that Taos Housing Partnership did sign the contract with Taos County on December 30th. I want to thank commissioners for the vote of confidence and for basically saying, yes, let's do this, because that's what we're doing right now. Just to let you know, we pushed this, our proposal, a 3-year proposal, into 2 years, and that's to coincide with spending all of the ARPA dollars. So we have, as of the 1st of January, mobilized the Taos Housing Partnership team. I have all of our subcontractor contracts signed and executed. That is with both Project Moxie, who you're familiar with, and also Site Southwest. Carlos Guimora, who many of us met when we had him up here in October, is going to be one of those key partners with us. As we move this work forward, we're on a fast track. It's a lot of work to do in a 2-year period, and we're ready to go. What we will be doing, we have a soft kickoff meeting today with the planning department. I've been in touch with Brent, and what we're going to do is pretty much meet with planning department and key leadership county staff every 2 weeks to kind of keep things moving. We're adjusting our implementation calendar just a little bit, and that's because we are smack in the legislative session, and a lot of my team is involved in that work. The other piece is that because the short-term rental ordinance work that was approved in October, there's some additional administrative support that Taos Housing Partnership is lending to that effort. So we're going to push the short-term rental ordinance piece forward. We're also working on an administrative manual that will likely come to council or commission in early March. That is going to be the document that the county stands on as the welcome mat to private money coming in. So we've talked a lot about the importance of being really clear when you have public subsidy coming into housing development. That public-private interface is really important to get it right. So the administrative manual is really going to be the marching sort of welcome to the county. This is how all of this is going to work. So we're moving quickly on those 2 pieces. And then what I wanted to say is that as we enter into this work, expectations are really important, and also roles and responsibilities of sort of who's doing what and when. So I will be working very closely with Brent and county staff, and that's a lot of what we're going to start working out. So how our work updates come to county commission, we're still figuring that piece out. So I just want to say thank you. We're ready to go. We signed the contract on December 30th, and I'll tell you, my team started the first week in January back. So we're ready to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Anybody else wishing to make a comment? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move right along to item number 8, public hearing. DEFRA, public hearing related to the Taos County Hospital Gross Receipts Tax Improvement Revenue Bond Series 2025 as required by the Internal Revenue Code, Section 147F, sorry. Chris, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Chris Muirhead with Model Reform Bond Council. You guys are well familiar with this transaction. This is the third or fourth time that we've been here. This is the financing with the hospital gross receipts tax that is going to price next week, and I'll give you a little preview of that. But let me tell you what this hearing's about. And just to give you, again, the context, this would be the third time the public's been given an opportunity to provide input, the inducement resolution at the bond ordinance and now. The reason we have this third one is because these are tax-exempt governmental bonds, the Internal Revenue Code applies. And then the extra little twist that requires this hearing is the beneficiary of these funds being the hospital is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. And given that, the IRS has particular rules about that we are fully aware of, and this will all be in compliance. One of those is this TEFRA hearing, and this is just another opportunity for the public to come and provide any comments they have about the project. It is not anything that is approved or not approved. You've already taken that step. It's just to hear further input if anybody has it. But no action is required other than the public hearing. I will give you an update on the pricing, or we can do the public hearing. I'll give it up afterwards. You want me to just kind of go through what the preliminary numbers look like before the hearing, before you open up for questions? Might as well. Okay. So as we mentioned, the bonds, the lender, the purchaser of the bonds is the New Mexico Finance Authority. And given the size of the debt, anything above 10 million, the Finance Authority issues their own bonds in the capital markets, takes those proceeds and then lends them to the county. And so the Finance Authority is issuing their pricing their bonds next Tuesday, a week from today. And they've provided us preliminary numbers to show what they think based on today's market. Now, this could change anyway, up or down in the next week. But given today's market, what they anticipate the terms to be in the bonds that they're pricing. And given those numbers, the true interest cost and the net interest cost to the county for this debt is 4.9%. And this is over a 10-year period, which is based on the AAA rating that the Finance Authority has. The interesting thing was that the county was targeting producing bond proceeds that would provide $20 million to the hospital for hospital improvement projects. That is still where we are here, $20 million for that project. In the initial discussions between RBC and the county, the discussion was, well, can we have an additional like 50% above 1x coverage so that we make sure we have enough money coming in to pay debt service, and that we would take that additional money and pay the bonds off early. Based on these numbers, it would be about 1.4x coverage instead of 1.5. However, it will produce, based on this and historical gross receipts tax, assuming that stays the same, $1.2 million annually above debt service. So it's about 2.8 debt service that we paid. There would be an additional 1.2 million annually that you can then use, and it's provided for, and the lender is aware of this, to redeem bonds early. And using that, and assuming that projection holds, which is a conservative projection, you'd be looking to have this 10-year bond paid off in 6 years. And then the tax is still in place for additional 4. You could do an additional financing to provide additional money for the hospital at that time. So still conservative, providing substantial additional revenues for early redemption. And again, they might fluctuate slightly between today and next week, but I think that's a pretty solid preview of what's gonna happen for the bond issuance. Happy to answer any costs on or questions on that pricing or where we are. It would ultimately close February 25th, and the hospital would have their funds available at that point.
Oh, you've heard. Does anybody have any questions, or we can open up for the public for their questions if anybody has any? We will limit everyone to 3 minutes as well.
Mr. Chairman, I think you answered it, but I missed it. What is the timetable on the receipt of the money? What is the timetable on when the funds would be received?
Oh, yes, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Romero, February 25th is when it would close. So we will know the final terms a week from today, and then we'll incorporate that into a sales certificate that can either be executed by the chair of the commission or the county manager on that date. And then we'll have closing documents, and I'll be up outside of a commission meeting just to get signatures on those documents. And then the funds will be available February 25th.
Any additional questions?
Okay, thank you.
Is there anybody from the public wishing to comment on this?
Yeah, I have some questions over here with,
Come on up. State your name for the record. Is this to the public comment or?
it's about having speed bumps in Camino de la Loma. I've been fighting on that thing for the longest time. And
Okay, sir, let's go ahead and finish this and then I'll let you come back up. We'll back up and I'll let you make your comment about the.
you mean when everything is over?
No, right after this, I'll back up because we already went through public comment. You walked in right after public comment. And we'll go ahead and finish this and then I'll let you speak on the road issue. Okay, seeing no public comment, we'll go ahead and close this public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, that really is it. So we are good with any kind of commission action at this point. Like I said, I'll be up in the next 10 days to meet with you, the county clerk, Brent, and we'll get everything signed up. But everything looks to be in solid shape. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll go ahead and back up to public comment. Let this gentleman, go ahead and come up, senor. And
I have a lot of things.
Mr. Gonzalez, go ahead. 3 minutos.
First, I saw, I'm Pablo Gonzalez. And I saw in the paper where Darlene, I don't know, she's trying to defend immigrants or something, the facts about defending immigrants. Could you explain to me what happened over here?
On public comment, Mr. Gonzalez, we
Yes.
can't make a comment or make a decision. All we can do is listen to what you have to say, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, now I've been trying to get some speed bumps in Camino de la Loma for the longest time, and every time she rejected. Now, the thing is that now that they killed the little black cat close to the highway, right away, the deputies from the sheriff department were giving tickets, but then they stopped. Now, that cat belonged to an Anglo or Irish family. So I want to know why, when it comes to that kind of people, right away they give tickets for a little while. Now, I want to know I need an explanation. Okay, they have already killed 2 of my dogs, black. One of those blue heelers, and my daughter's my daughter's dog was it had papers on it. Now my blue heeler, the only thing he couldn't do was talk. Now then they killed one of my cats, one of my wife's cats. Now I want to know what are you gonna do about that road? I know you're not gonna do anything. So I want to see if we can close that road. The Camino Bajo la Loma. And so the thing is that the last time I talked to Darlene over here, we had, let's see. Well, we had a whole bunch of yeses, and we only had two noes. People that did not agree on it. Now, I want to know and ask you and the commissioners, how come you haven't put any speed bumps on that road? One of my grandmothers donated that road in the early 1500s. Now, if you don't want to put it in the speed bumps, I want to see if we can close that road. And also, I have something else about the sheriff department. The sheriff department, we went to court, I went to court with Francisco Gonzalez Comanche. And it was an accusation, he charged me of an accusation. At the time, he wanted on an accusation $200. So, but one of the state police responded, and I told the state police, well, Francisco is a serial rapist. And so that ended everything right there.
Okay, Mr. Gonzalez, that's the end of your time. We appreciate, that's the end of your time. We're allowing 3 minutes for public comment. 3 minutos. Ya se pararon, ya se acabó los 3 minutos.
Okay, I'll come later and talk and see what we
Okay.
can get, if we can get together on those speed bumps. And, okay, the sheriff,
That's it, senor.
excuse me, I don't know, I know, but
We have to move on, okay?
he charged me, okay, it was an accusation, an accusation.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Moving right along to presentations. Presentation regarding the application of award results for the first full year of Irish tax. Jessica Perry.
Good morning, Chair Mascarenhas, Commissioners. I wanted to just provide a brief overview of some of the data that we've collected based on this first year of county lodgers tax grants under the new guidelines that we approved last year. Just to note, this is baseline. We've never collected this kind of information before, and so I think this provides a really good starting place for where we need to do outreach in specific geographies and different sectors to make sure that this money is flowing into all different areas of the community. But just a quick overview, we had 34 applications received over 2 grant cycles. We made 29 awards total. The total request that we received was $622,901,000, and we granted $179,000. To date, we've actually reimbursed just over $100,000 of that, but grantees have until May 15th to request their reimbursements. So I will be busy throughout the spring getting those dollars out the door. Interesting to know that we've been granting about 79% of the funding request, which is pretty high, and 91% of those applications were funded. So the advisory board is doing a really great job vetting these applications according to the guidelines. They're doing an incredible amount of due diligence. They're being very thoughtful and really wanting to adhere to the vision and the values and the goals of this program to make sure that the funds are going to things that are going to benefit locals and visitors while making Taos County a really great, wonderful place to live and visit. Some things that I think are interesting about this information is just where we're lacking. We only received 1 application in the outdoors and recreation category. And then unfortunately that application was not funded. And so I think there's an opportunity there to really get the information to that sector as a tourism sector, but also something that local people also enjoy. And then for me, another interesting kind of reflection is just the geographic breakdown at the bottom of page 1. Not surprising that about 50% of the funding was concentrated in Taos. But this also shows me that we need to do some outreach into the northern and southern parts of the county to make sure that funds are getting distributed broadly. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Jessica. Go ahead, Commissioner Vihil.
So I'd like to say thank you, Jessica. This is actually very good information, and you explained it very, very well. I appreciate the fact that you all are taking the time to break it down as such, and now you know what area you need to approach, and I have no doubt that this will look different next year, but this is really excellent work. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner Rush, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Jessica. This is really helpful, and I just want to compliment you on, and the board, on the range of organizations supported, from like ballet to the county fair to the chambers of commerce. Like there's quite the diversity of activities here, including some, really great ones like twirl and, it really spans quite a range, and I appreciate your comment that you're going to even be working to expand it even more. So thank you. Great work.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner Romero, go ahead.
Yeah, just as a clarification, what is the deadline for the next cycle for requests?
Yes, Chair Mascarenhas, Commissioner Romero, thank you. We will be opening the next cycle on March 3rd, and that will close March 31st. And that will be for funding beginning in July, so the next fiscal year. So we'll be closing out fiscal year 25 in May, June, and then moving towards the next fiscal year. So it takes a few months to get the applications and read them and score them and then do all the purchase orders. But those will be for the next fiscal year.
Commissioner Vihil, go ahead.
Just a follow-up. What might you do different now? Because certainly outreach is going to be key here. So I'm just curious, do you have something in mind that you might do differently in the outreach?
Sure, Commissioner, thank you. I think one thing is that the advertising that I have done just to, get the word out, mostly radio and newspaper. I think what I'd like to do is do some more flyering in the northern and southern part of the county, and then work with the advisory board members to try to do some outreach there. The goal that I have is eventually, if and when there's a coordinator person to help me with this, is that we're actually doing training in those different communities. In different communities, I should say, across the county, so that we can actually teach people how to apply for this and things that they need to keep in mind, so that they are submitting stronger applications, that we're getting the word out in person into more communities across the country. So that higher touch, more in-person outreach is really the goal that I have.
That's great. Thank you.
Any additional questions? Seeing none, thank you, Jessica, for the presentation. Moving right along to item number 10, contracts, agreements, MOUs, and bids. Discussion, consideration, granting authority to the county manager to sign the final negotiated contracts for TCC 2021-6 A5 Rio Grande ATP Inc. Johnny, welcome.
Mr. Chair, Commission, good to see you all again. Just to give you a little brief, our program, I write for a certain amount of money every year. And before I started, we would get about $327,000, giving about $35,000 to treatment, 30 to 35. In the past 3-4 years, I've gotten us 400, 460, 480, and now this past year I had $560,000. It was over $500,000 for the program. It not only pays for our program, but it pays for the treatment in our community. It pays for things that I bring the community together, like our alcohol awareness, and I hope you all can attend this year's. It'll be our third alcohol awareness. The first one, we fed over 400 people. The second one, 650, and we're hoping to get close to 1,000 people fed. And given what it does is we give alcohol awareness, we give free treatment, we give out indigency help for different things as far as like interlock or healthcare or anything like that, and get everybody aboard. We have everybody from Penasco to Cuesta involved. This year, I believe we had the state add helmets for the children last year for free. This year, we're looking to get them to do car seats as well. And then we're gonna have Chevron and Granite come in with us. I know a couple of people from there, and they're looking to come in with us and give out to the community things and what they can do for the community. So it's a big, huge thing. I had 2 other counties show up last year, and they just thought it was tremendous what we did. And the community had a lot of good things to say about it. So I hope you can all come. It's usually the first Friday in August. And now I do have to meet with my council to see if that's going to be good with everybody, which it should be. and then we'll let you all know about that. But getting back to this contract, I gave 45,000 at the start of the year. With the monies that I have, I saw an increase that I can give them up to $70,000. $40,000 covers my people, or my staff, or my dependents that come in. And now the state's going to allow me, I believe, next year to allow anybody that wants to come into my office to be able to take care of them. But the money of 45,000 usually lasts about February, March. And then we use a place called Falling Colors through Rio Grande. And they help people to the end of the year. And we get pretty shy where Rio Grande actually uses their money in the last month or two. So by me putting in 70, it should cover pretty close to the end of the year. Also, they help people with food. They help people with looking for jobs, getting their IDs, their licenses. They also help people with if they need a place to stay. They give them clothing. There's a lot of things that Rio Grande also assist to get for these people. So our clients or the people that come through my program are well taken care of when they come through here. So my presentation today is to request that it's okay that we move it from 45 to 70,000 so that we can take care of our community.
Thank you, Johnny. Any questions from anyone?
Comment, if I may?
Go ahead.
Thank you. So Johnny, since I can remember, you all have been doing some excellent work. So I just want to thank you once again, you and your team. And, just wanted to express my gratitude. And
Thank you.
I
Thank you so much.
don't know if anyone has anything to say, but if not, I'll make a motion.
Commissioner Brush? Okay.
Okay, then I would like to make a motion to, let's see here, to grant authority to the county manager to sign the final negotiated contract TCC 2021-6A5 Rio Grande ATP Inc. for the increase to the contract in the amount of 70,000.
Thank you, Commissioner Beal.
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Brush. There's been a motion by Commissioner Beal and a second by Commissioner Brush. Madam Clerk, would you please call roll?
Commissioner Vehil,
Yes.
Commissioner Romero,
Yes.
Commissioner Brush,
Yes.
Vice Chair Romero, Chairman Mascarenhas.
Yes. Thank you, Johnny. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, Commission, and have a wonderful day.
Moving right along to item number 11, Department Matters, review Taos County FY 2024 financial reports for second quarter, FY 2024. Emily?
Good morning, Chair Mascarenhas, Commissioners. If you want to give me a few minutes to get set up over here.
Sure, go ahead.
Lisa.
We just needed you to stand up. Okay. Oh. All right, can anybody see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. There it is. Okay, so this information was included in your packet, so I hope you've had time to review it. I'd like to point out a few formatting that we had designed based on the feedback from the last meeting. So on the first three columns, it's a description of our funds, our first quarter actuals, second quarter actuals, and our year-to-date. The column right to the right of that is our annual budget, our budget versus actual, then the percentage of the budget that we're at right now, the year-over-year comparison, and whether we're over or under. So is there any questions on formatting? Okay. So I hope this kind of gives you a better idea. I know we had kind of discussed what you would like to see. So we're going to start with our general fund. And in the column that says second quarter percentage of budget, and it has the plus minus sign, I highlighted funds or line items that are either over budget or under budget. The blue represents line items that are over budget, the pink represents items that are under budget. And I've only done this with our major funds, since our major funds are considered funds where payroll is reliant upon them, critical services, community services. So we're not going to spend too much time focusing on the supplemental accounts, but the major funds only. So we'll start with our general fund, and these are our revenues. And you can see that our GRT, we're tracking right at 50%, so our projections are in line with our actuals. Property taxes, 66% over budget. And then you can see the year-over-year comparison. We're not quite where we were at this time last year, but we're almost there, just about $1,000 variance. So I'm going to go ahead and let you review these. These line items that are 100% budget, these are one-time annual fees that have all been collected. So that's why it's at 100%. And for line items that are at 100%, that's probably the case that they are annual fees.
Go ahead, Commissioner Brush.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Emily. And to that point about a line item that's around 100% being typically an annual fee already been collected, is that true for our business licenses, which we've got at 105%? And I'm asking because I'm kind of curious about any short-term rental impact on that licenses. Is this where we would see that?
I'm going to have to defer to our county manager on some of these 15 months. I'm not quite the expert I hope to be.
Yes, you would, Mr. Chair, Commissioner, yes, this is where you would see that portion of it. And the additional fees would go into a different line item, but anything that goes through the clerk's office shows up here. So this potentially that by June 30th can also grow slightly as somebody new opens business and they go through the clerk's office, then back to the planning department. This could potentially grow a little bit.
Thank you.
And if I could just add a little bit of insight from what from my experience is there are certain times of the year that, for example, construction may not take place or people aren't doing certain things. So you're not going to see it at this point, but you'll see it in the future. So I think that's basically what you said, Brent, but it's just very common even in taxes and whatnot. There's certain periods that people really do take the opportunity to come pay taxes.
Thank you. And just let me know when you're ready for me to scroll down after you've reviewed the various line items on the screen.
Go ahead, Commissioner Brush.
Thank you, Chair Mascarenhas. I just have one other question. Emily, what is, I can't see which line it is because I'm looking at the PDF version, but there's a line right under our property that says non-penned?
Non-rendering?
Yeah, non-rend. What is that?
What page are you on?
First page? Yeah, it's under property penalty and interest, non-rend. I mean, it's not a fee number, but I'm just curious what it is.
Right underneath it.
A good example of that is the properties across the river. Our treasurer could probably give you a better explanation than I could. Those are the properties that we're not collecting property tax or in their different status. They're not, we're not receiving any property tax revenue from them.
The off-grid locations out there?
Yes. Right. And so then the treasurer would probably give you a better explanation than I could, and if she's watching, I'm sure she's gonna send me a text message.
Anything else?
I'd just like to point out on the year-over-year comparison, for the majority of our funds, we are receiving well over what we were receiving at this time last year, so that's encouraging. For the line items that are at 0%, these are fees that have not yet been collected. Our fiscal agent fee has not yet been collected. Our tilt monies have not come in yet, so that's the reason for the 0% budgets. So we're not really far off in our where we should be, which is at 50%. It's usually a 5 to 10% variance that I'm seeing within the funds, so that's also encouraging.
Commissioner Brush with it.
Thank you again, Chair Mascarenhas. And this, I will just say, is a question for our county manager. You have referred to the PILT money, which I see in there. When do we typically get that in? And I think we're all just keeping an extra sharp eye out on federal funding, which is what this is. So I'm just curious what we might expect.
Chair, Commissioner Brush, we typically see this in the middle of June, along with our secure rural counties monies as well.
So overall, we're at 58% of our revenues, and we're $872,062.26 over what we received last year in our revenues. Our expenses, as you can see from the first quarter, our recurring revenues did not support our recurring expenses. However, we did have a healthy cash balance to make up for that shortfall. Second quarter, we were able to make up for that deficit, and year to date, we are actually $5,821,373.50 recurring revenue over expense. So we've made up for that shortfall. Property taxes coming in December, and that's when we really start seeing the impact. Questions on expenses?
Any questions? See none, go ahead.
Okay. One second. Oh. Sorry about that. Okay, next we're going to be discussing our roads and infrastructure. So Public Works. Let's see. These are our.
It's going to be at 75, your percentage, change of percentage.
There we go. I appreciate your patience. Well, we can see our revenue line items right here, and we're not quite hitting where we're supposed to, but again, it's in a 5 to 10% variance on most of the line items. There we go. Okay, you must have. So overall in Public Works, I believe we are right around, I just need to stand a little bit closer. Okay, so we're at 39% of our revenues for Public Works, so we're not quite hitting that mark, and 62% expenses. Public Works continues to run in a deficit. The recurring revenues do not support the recurring expenses, so this results in large transfers from our general fund.
regards to the deficit, this is, Brett, you might know, I'm sure you'll know this. This is very common though, in this particular area, right? We do have to transfer in every year. We haven't been able to.
Yes, we do budget a transfer in every year. There's not enough gross receipts tax that goes into this fund to have it self-supporting.
Right, and we haven't figured out how to.
There's gas tax, there's different taxes that go into this besides the gross receipts tax. One of the bills that Senator Gonzalez is carrying is to increase gas tax for DOT's benefit. I'm not sure how that would affect us, but there is a bill, because that hasn't been increased since I believe the late 90s.
So as you can see on the pink line that says recurring revenue over expenses year to date, we are in the deficit by $1,416,337.65. We haven't had to initiate a transfer just yet because we do have a cash balance that's making up for that shortfall, but we'll probably see that fully diminished here within the next few months, and then we'll start initiating those transfers. Okay, is this better? Okay. I apologize for the challenges we're having with technology this morning. And then year over year, we're not quite getting the revenue that we were this time last year, and our expenses have also increased. So this fund is one that continues to be reliant upon the general fund for support. Our next one is the GRT infrastructure. These are GRTs that we get specifically for buildings, infrastructure. This fund always has a pretty healthy cash balance. We're at 62% of our revenues and 1% of our expenses. And we're mostly ahead year over year with the exception of the GRT infrastructure 3/4, where we're not quite getting what we did at this time last year. This is our grant match fund specifically designated for grant matches and temporary loans. And again, I'm not going to spend too much time on these ones as they're just supplemental. Our enterprise funds are solid waste and EMS. Excuse me. Here we go again. So overall, this fund continues to run in a deficit as well, year to date by $38,998.33. We're hoping that with the rate increase that recently went into effect, that we'll see this deficit shrinking. Moving forward, I am going to break out the recycling fees and the landfill user fees. I have them combined right now, but because it's just went into effect, it isn't really relevant to this quarter. So we'll see, you'll see that broken out for the third quarter. Our EMS funds were at 52% of our revenues and 41% of our expenses. This is another fund that continues to be reliant on transfers. We did receive the EMS grant that supports payroll for new hires, new recruits. I'm not including this in recurring revenue because this is a 3-year grant. So our recurring revenue, which is our billing and our GRTs, does not support the recurring expenses. And this is another fund I think that we need to keep a close eye on and how we can go about making up for that shortfall, because when these grant monies are no longer, this fund is going to might be in a precarious position, so we need to just keep an eye on it.
Good question. So Emily, you said that it's not in here because you're talking about the funding, it's not in this
The funding is noted here under total revenues. There is the state buyer recruitment grant, and that is noted here, but it is not included in our recurring revenue over expense calculation because it's not recurring revenue.
That's the one that came to you, I think in September, when we added those 4 positions to the last.
Can I understand why we would not put it in there?
Questions on enterprise funds?
Any questions?
No.
Go ahead.
Okay, and here's all the other funds in the county. Again, we're not going to focus too much on the supplemental funds, but we're just going to be looking at our major funds.
Can I ask, Chair, another question?
Go
Is there
ahead.
anything we should be concerned? I know we're not going to go through them, but you haven't seen anything that stands out that we should be concerned on those funds?
I've highlighted funds that aren't meeting their revenue, their budgeted revenues, so that you can kind of, look at those and ask questions as needed. There's nothing of major concern. The supplemental funds, all of that's included in your packet. So if you want to look over those when you have a chance, and then email me if you have any questions. But there's no major concerns within any of these funds except the ones that I'm specifically highlighting, such as our enterprise funds, and then the jail and public works are also our funds that we're concerned with. And they've been continually the same funds that we continue to prop up.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so I'm just going to scroll down and kind of bypass these smaller funds as we discussed. Nope, we're still not working. Our ARPA monies, which are fully obligated. Okay, dispatch, we're at 49% of our revenues, 32% of our expenses. Dispatch does very well. We are right on target for our GRT projections. Recurring revenue supports recurring expenses and a healthy cash balance of $4,296,158.53. Fire Protection Fund, 50% of our revenue, so right on track there, 15% of our expenditures. Recurring revenue supports recurring expenses, cash balance of $7,063,569.73. Lodgers tax, 43% of our revenues, 18% of our expenditures. And a healthy cash balance of $1,161,978. Lodgers tax non-promotional, 43% of our revenues and 20% of our expenditures. We did see a few more expenditures than we typically do in lodgers tax non-promotional. So our recurring revenues didn't quite support the recurring expenses, but we did have a cash balance to make up for that shortfall. And correct me if I'm wrong, this is due to the work that was done at the plaza recently?
Right.
Our Senior Citizens Fund, 58% of our revenues, 49% of our expenses. This fund also continues to rely on support from the general fund. Recurring revenues do not meet recurring expenses. So we do have budgeted transfers within this fund. Indigent Fund, 55% of our revenues, 32% of our expenditures. Recurring revenues did not meet recurring expenses. This isn't too typical of indigent. They always have plenty of cash to support their budget. I believe this was due to a few big contracts that were paid at the beginning of the year. that we won't see again for the remainder of the fiscal year. Fire excise, we're at 53% of our revenue, 10% of our expenses. Recurring revenues do support recurring expenses with the cash balance of $2,210,930. Jail and detention, we are at 46% of our revenues and 31% of our expenses. However, as mentioned, the recurring revenue, it does not support the recurring expenses. We are in a deficit of $1,106,357.13. And this will continue to increase as we proceed throughout the fiscal year. And we do have budgeted transfers to support this shortfall. It's our opioid monies that was recently discussed. There's our cash balance there. Our DWI fund, we're at 56% of our revenues, 42% of our expenses. Revenues are supporting the expenses by $205. This is another fund that relies on support from our general fund. And grants. So our grants, I have consolidated into state, federal, and private grants. If you'd like specific details on specific grants, I'm happy to provide those to you, but there are just too many to present today. Questions?
Any questions?
Go ahead.
And here's our cash recap. This is every county fund. Revenues and expenses and our ending cash balances. At the bottom of the page highlighted in yellow here, these are our GRTs held for others. These are GRTs that are passed through to other entities. And here it's also noted what we have passed along in our 911 GRT to Red River year to date, and to the town of Taos for support for fire programs, and to the hospital. So this gives you an idea of what's coming in and what's going out, passed through to these entities.
Commissioner Brush, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Emily. Just at some point, could we see, it doesn't have to be right now, like the breakdown of that fire and EMS GRT, and like what each municipality is receiving from us? Like I said, not today, but I'd just be curious to see how that's being distributed.
I do not have it right now, but I have it, I don't have it on me.
Yeah, anytime, thanks.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Emily.
This sheet right here is something I put together to monitor our cash flows, and I based it on payroll and operational. So this is every county fund. So I'm able to assess where we're falling short. Just kind of giving you a very consolidated view. And again, I've only listed our major funds, and then I have all other. But we're seeing a lot of red here. And this is where our recurring revenues do not meet our recurring expenses. We discussed them individually, but this just kind of gives you an overview of what the general fund is supporting. So I think that this is really important information to have as we enter into our new budgeting season, how much the general fund is going to have to support and how conservative and cautious we need to be when making decisions during this budgeting season. I can total up these deficit amounts, and it would be a pretty large amount of what we're having to support to continue these critical services, community services by our general fund. Questions on cash flows?
Go ahead, Commissioner Brush.
Thank you, Chair. You just mentioned that you said you could total up all of the general fund help that these other funds can get. I would be really interested in seeing that total number when you have a chance.
I'm sorry, I can't understand you.
I'm going to turn off my mic. I would be really interested. You mentioned that you could total up all of the general fund support that these other funds need. I'd be really interested in seeing that total. How much are we using from general fund regularly? So when you have a chance, I'd love to see that.
Transfer page.
I don't have the transfers page here. But I'm happy to provide that to you. We have been really fortunate to have a healthy cash balance in our general fund. And again, this is conservative budgeting. This is very prudent and wise investment decisions by our treasurer. So we want to continue to preserve those investments and reserves that we hold in the general fund. And I think that we need to continue to be really cautious in our approach with how these are used moving forward. I'm sorry?
Total of $4 million.
That's in our general fund. Let's see.
I'm looking at the right line.
Our cash balance in the general fund now is $14,857,642.25.
You're asking if we're budgeting out $8 million in transfers to come out of
Yes.
the general fund to go to roads, detention, what else? Roads, detention.
EMS.
EMS, small portion.
Solid waste
Waste is self-sufficient. And it also goes into the grant match fund and portion too.
$8 million typical of the last several years.
And it's gone up. Can't remember what it was last year, but it did go over last year. And then our biggest expense is the detention center, and then as an example of expenses, we just paid New Mexico County's $401,000 last week for our law enforcement insurance, and it's a combination between the sheriff's office and detention, and we budgeted $325 total between the two funds. So stuff like that, and then when we're at the meeting on the 21st, they tell us to anticipate another 25% on top of the 401,000. So those seats continue to rise. Those insurance costs continue to rise. So it's, those things rise, the transfers out rise.
Thanks.
And these transfer amounts from the general fund is subject to change. We have maxed out our grant match fund, so any type of temporary loans and matches, that 2.5 million that we had budgeted has been pretty much depleted. So if we have any other grants that do require a match or do require a temporary loan, we may have to drop off our general fund. So this amount is subject to change. So again, I just think that we need to be really aware of our position in this year-to-date cash flow. This is a really important tool to hopefully we can all become really familiar with when making decisions.
Any questions, comments?
I would just add that I appreciate your thoughtful approach and your honesty and telling us what we need to watch for and how careful we need to be here. And so, I mean, and it's tough. It's tough, and there's a lot of unknowns, and I suspect everything's just going to keep on going up. But I just wanted to express my gratitude for that, because we do have to be very careful.
Thank you. And I think I'll just kind of step away from that. No, I think that there are a lot of unknowns. We're seeing a lot of things in the news and in the media that could possibly trickle down to local government. So again, this is used as a tool so we're all informed of exactly where we're at with our various funds. And again, my tenure with Taos County is all of 15 months. I'm still learning, I'm still growing. I appreciate the insight and the wisdom that you all have passed along to me, and we're going to continue to kind of manage this together. And I'm always available for questions, concerns, or if there's any particular items that we really need to look into a little bit deeper.
I did want to add just one more page that I thought was really helpful, and that is the comparison.
Graph.
The graph. And the reason why, Commissioners, I say, thank you for letting me speak here, is my concern is there's not that much of an increase. And we want to make sure that we're growing at a rate that's equivalent to what we're seeing out there. So what I'm talking about is property values. And so there's a slight increase that there's a concern for me there.
I think it's roughly about 6% growth in our revenues and 12% increase in our expenditures. So here's the year-over-year comparison.
Thank you, I just wanted to.
I forgot about that.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Commissioner Romero.
Emily, when is the second quarter report due at DFNA?
I'm sorry.
When is this second quarter report due at the state?
It's due it's due at the end of January. It's already been submitted.
Oh, okay.
It goes in a different format, or it's called the LGBMS, Local Government Budget Management System. So it's a totally different report. What comes closest is a cash recap, but there's some more report that gets turned in, but it looks totally different than what you guys see.
Are you experiencing any problem in submitting it like we did in the past year?
No, and that was just my own unfamiliar. I was unfamiliar with the system and how it all worked, and now that I'm kind of getting my feet under me, I have it down. So we haven't seen any late reports.
Any other questions or comments?
I do like the layouts. This is really easy to understand. Thank you.
I'm glad it works for you.
Seeing nothing else, thank you, Emily, for the presentation. Appreciate the information. It's very helpful.
Thank you.
Moving right along to item number 12, County Managers Reports and Matters Update on various items affecting Taos County. Mr. Jaramillo.
Thank you, Chair Mascarenhas. Good morning again, members of the commission. I'd like to start off by saying we're in the process of filling the community schools director position. They should be on board in the next 3 to 4 weeks. Jessica mentioned it earlier. Mr. Madrid, myself, Ms. Elam, and Ms. Stern have met regarding a job description for the lodge tax coordinator position. So that will be coming to the commission for approval. Traditionally, any new positions that we add to the budget and new job descriptions get approved. And then also if you have any major changes to existing job description, we also bring those to the commission for approval. Ms. Stern is also coordinating with Taos Community Foundation to come and do a report similar to what she did today regarding the ARPA funds, American Rescue Plan funding that they helped administer in the past, and then we'll do one future one for the one that they're currently administering. We did a photo op with Taos Community Arts Association, the auditorium, Taos Community Arts Association for the 400,000 grant that's going through TCF for those jobs and some other programming and building improvements there, TCF. Emergency management, we're continuing to meet internally and for wildland fire coordination meetings and just in preparation of any event happens this summer. And we'll continue to meet with our LAPC, the local emergency group that includes other municipalities, Kit Carson, the gas company, BLM, and the Forest Service. So we'll continue to meet there. I already forwarded to you this morning that the vacancy rate at the end of June is at 15%. Senior center participation has increased. Special events are well attended. The state oversight agencies are pleased with the progress that we're making in the department. The commission may recall that in May of 2024, the county submitted a grant application to the Energy and Minerals Department for the Community Energy Efficiency Development Grant. We were awarded this grant in the amount of $2,015,000. And they asked us to hold off from any further submission. They were a little bit short-staffed last week. They did let Mr. Madrid know that it's okay to submit, and we signed on the grant agreement last week. We still need to do some other stuff internally, create a funded budget for it, and we'll be partnering up with Kit Carson on this one. If you have any specific questions, Mr. Madrid will be happy to answer them. And then staff has also been meeting with representatives of the Tapa and Morelos-Seco communities associations to discuss implementation of that $852,000 small business administration grant. That's to provide business support and community services through our community centers. This project initiative is very well enthusiastically received by both community centers. Staff intends to introduce the initiative next to Penasco and Amaya Costilla regions of the county, and our anchor community centers. Once our anchor community centers are further established, we have to introduce the services to these additional communities. Our contracts have been signed. We're ready for any work on Blueberry Hill Road. Those contracts are executed, so once weather is permitting, we'll go ahead and work on Blueberry Hill Road. Same thing, we're finalizing. We haven't given a notice to proceed to Hassie Construction on Leo Valencia Road, but we're getting ready. Jason and Joe, we're getting ready for those two projects coming up. We're still trying to work on acquiring land for the bridge in Penasco, and I stand for any questions.
May I?
Go ahead, Commissioner Villa.
I was thinking about the grant that you were talking about in regards to the, what is it, efficiency?
Yes.
Yes, can you talk a little bit about, I know you said Kit Carson's going to be, I believe, taking the lead on this, is that correct? Can you speak a little bit about how that might look?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Villa. So I'm glad you asked that question so I can make a slight correction.
Okay.
We anticipate that Kit Carson may be applying, but I need to work with Elsa on the procurement. This may have to go out to RFP.
Oh.
So they may be an entity that will respond to the RFP. There might be other entities as well. It's a $2 million grant, rather large size for a rural area. We'll be taking these funds, developing a program to reach out to households that are underserved, maybe folks on fixed incomes, and help them by coming in and actually doing a lower test and doing an evaluation of their envelope, and then spending some money, no cost to them, to make improvements. So we lower their energy use and also lower their the amount they have to pay for utilities on a monthly basis. And then hopefully what comes out of this is continuation of the services, even when the money goes away. We've trained individuals locally to provide these services, and hopefully that continues in our community.
Excellent. That sounds really exciting. One last question. Do you know the timeline, what that might look like before funds might be tapped into by the public? I mean, I know this is a program you have to create, but do you have any idea when that might happen?
Not an exact one. We finally got a green light. So we knew we were receiving this grant about 6 months ago, but the department still had things to work out on their side. So we just got a green light. And as a matter of fact, we signed the agreement and they sent us a revised one just yesterday. They also sent us along a template for an ordinance. So sort of like the LEDA grants that require an ordinance, this will require an ordinance. So I sent that along to Shannon today to start working on it. So a combination of the ordinance, combination of going through procurement, it might be a few months.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
So you need to stick to the script and not improvise.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Madrid. Mr. Jaramillo. Thank you, Mr. Madrid.
Any more questions? Jason, Joe will be happy to answer any other questions as well, so.
Andy?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, moving right along to the historic county courthouse, Mr. Richard Sanchez.
Chairman, Commissioners, good to be here. With the signing of our purchase of our change order for $7+ million, we have several crews working at the courthouse. Weather hasn't been too much of an issue. The snow did delay a concrete pour, but poured concrete foundations for retaining walls and decorative walls and the rear steps coming out of the courtroom, the structural steel that holds the second floor up at the elevator and holds the roof up in the elevators in place. The adobes, there's 2 big openings now. You can walk from the old courthouse into the new mason area, will be the elevator lobby, both on the first and second floor. The roof's being stripped. When I was up on the roof on Thursday last week, it was probably 60% stripped. They've got a temporary roof on it, and it looks like it's drier than the roof that was on there with this temporary roof, which is good. I just want not getting more damage. They started some of the demolition in the east infill, and so things are moving forward.
Right.
Commissioner Romero.
When is the next contractor meeting? The next contractor meeting, the Thursday meetings?
Next project meeting will be a week from this Thursday. It'll be the 13th next week. Yeah, we had one last week, and so we'll have one. Submittals are coming in for lighting fixtures, plumbing fixtures. The roofing's already been approved. So like I said, things are moving well right now.
Thanks. Very excited.
Any other questions or comments?
Thank you.
All right, moving right along, general construction update, Mr. Sanchez.
General construction, so La Ciega's moving forward. Weather's, we're about at the end of phase 2. Hopefully we'll have some more money and maybe finish La Cienega. It'd be nice to have that senior center done. They were inside doing plumbing and electrical, and it's looking good. We are going to have a change order. I am concerned about the existing ceiling in the kitchen. During the work we've been having done, because of water damage, pieces of plaster have been falling down. So in the kitchen, you have a suspended ceiling that's washable so that you can access controls and whatnot. Plaster is pretty thick. I'm a little concerned that if a piece of plaster were to fall off, it could come through the ceiling and actually injure somebody. So we're getting a price to strip the old plaster off of the kitchen area. In the dining room and the new offices, that's not an issue because it was a nail-on acoustic old school ceiling. So there's no issue there. There weren't any leaks in the dining area. All the leaks were in the kitchen areas where you have all kinds of penetrations for plumbing and exhaust hoods and all that kind of stuff. So structurally, it's good. It's just that the plaster was damaged, the ceiling plaster. So we are going to get a quote on removing that before we put up the ceiling, the finished ceiling. Penasco Community Center, weather pending. Hopefully we'll be breaking ground maybe March or April. Design work is done. We have the plumbing contractor, mechanical contractor, because we were concerned with the old septic system, so we had it pumped. They went to evaluate it. They're working on design. It probably won't pass a new EID inspection, which would be required for us to look into it. So they're working on a design to make a new septic system that's big enough and in compliant for both the addition and the existing buildings. So that one's moving forward. Detox Center up at Weimer. While we were waiting for funding, we had a lot of additional damage that occurred, but it's been taken care of. We had to replace all the glass basically on the inside and on the outside of the building from vandalism. We also have a lot of paint vandalism, which will have to get taken care of before we occupy. That's something that I'm looking at. We may self-perform that and we purchase materials to do it. Again, we have to wait till the temperature changes. Painting the exterior of the building needs the weather to be 45 degrees and rising at least for 2 days. So that'll probably happen in March, right before possible occupancy in phase 1. We're also having to design kitchen upgrades because it's inpatient. They have to prepare meals. So that's another additional expense. But glass has been replaced. Interior painting is probably 80% complete. Most of the demolition's complete. So that project's moving forward real well also.
Question.
Go ahead, Commissioner Vihel.
The question is, and I think I heard the date, and of course, we need to make sure we don't want to set a date and we're not able to move in on that date, but I think you said March. What's the time frame?
Okay, we don't have a set date. We are working with the provider for the contractor. I just don't want the public or the test needs to say we're opening March 1st. We'll work privately with Rio Grande to figure out what the best date is to open, and then the county and Rio Grande can have that announcement. But we've been working with Mr. Medina, letting them know where we are. What I hear from Mr. Sanchez is what I relate to Mr. Medina.
Great. So thank you for clarifying that, because I myself don't
Yeah,
like to.
and, you know, part of, one of the big issues, as always, is fire suppression and fire marshals. So with the weather we have, the first thing that happens is on a fire suppression system like we have here, after you've got your general documents and you hire your general contractor, the actual fire suppression companies come in, they give a basic bid to cover everything. Then they come in and they have to design it and submit that to the state after the original building permit is issued. After the fire marshal's office approves it, then the work can start. Well, there we don't have a fire suppression system, and we have to have fire suppression. So we need to bring in a 6-inch water main from the street all the way to the building, build a riser room with all the controls and valves. On top of that, if right now it's too muddy to dig, if we get more snow and more rain, that can delay things. Getting an inspection. It took us almost 45 days to get our fire marshal inspection at the Veterans Cemetery. The building sat empty. And so that's one of the last inspections before your final inspection. So the whole thing could be done, just like the Veterans Cemetery's administrative building. It was done, all the inspections were done, with the exception of the final and the fire marshal. So even if the building were done and ready to occupy in March, if the fire marshal's office is behind schedule, it could be April, May. That's just, you know.
Well, it's important for folks to understand.
Yeah. Along that line though, also, because we have phase 2 and we have the funding and we're designing and we're working with a consultant and our provider and our architect, we are going to have to do some of the work that would be in phase 2 as part of phase 1, so that there can be a temporary lobby, access to bathrooms, while phase 2 is attaching to the building. So it's a little bit more, if we were just going to do phase 1 and that was it, they'd be in. We have to accommodate, protect the patients, administration, keep the liability low for the contractor, and not have dust and stuff. It's got to be a safe site because there will be construction going on.
Go ahead.
The funding, which I think you said, Brent, we didn't have that funding yet in our session. When we were talking about the federal funding, is that still accurate?
Yeah, that's correct.
Correct. Do we have any idea when that might?
It's a drawdown.
That's right, it is a drawdown.
It's a drawdown. So we'll be starting to draw down on some of those funds. I don't think we're drawing down on any of them right now, but we're working with Living Design Group and R&M Construction that's currently coming out of the legislative grant. There's a point where we're going to start drawing down on that for the current work.
Can you explain that process, that drawdown, so when you submit a certain amount that?
Right, so there'll be a pay request that'll come in from R&M Construction, Mr. Patterson and Mr. Sanchez will certify it. They'll provide that to our grants administrator and then they'll process a drawdown from the federal government. In this case, it'll probably be Mr. Madrid. They'll make that first drawdown. And then depending on, we'll pay the contractor within the 30 days of receiving the invoice, and that'll come out of our temporary loan, and then we'll have to reimburse ourselves when that money comes in.
Thank you.
Commissioner Romero, you had a question?
No, I don't think my question answered there.
Anybody else?
Things are moving well, and our projects are coming together. Our Honda's moving along. We've had some requests. I'm talking to the contractor about a couple things. We also have some funding for the parking lot at the Yanomkamala Community Center. That wouldn't go out to bid until this spring. We do have the design documents, and that's up in purchasing. We have some funding for El Dorado Community Center, so we'll start talking with the design team to see. We'd like to get the roof done because roofs are really important, especially in Adobe buildings. but there's also some structural issues that need to be taken care of to make the roof last. And they've been an issue for a long time, kind of one of those things. So, but overall, all our projects are moving along real well and they're more weather dependent than anything else. Our funding's in place, our contracts are in place, and we're set for a good spring, summer.
Commissioner Brash, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Mascarenhas, and thank you, Richard. You were just talking about Hondo a bit. Could you be a bit more specific about the?
I'm sorry.
About the bathrooms in our
About the bathrooms. So currently we have enough to finish the rough-ins, not finish the project. That's something that we've been working with Mr. Madrid and part of the additional funding required that we're trying to get for the community centers. So another one of those old buildings, it was worse than what was expected, what was hidden underneath the floor. And the floor is going to have to be removed in the entire bathroom, not just past, because it's basically hanging in the air. There's no way to repair it. So it has to be removed, a complete new floor in both bathrooms, not just where we had to do the plumbing work. So we are going to get an adjusted proposal to finish it out, and we'll go from there.
Last update I had was that it was going out to bid or something that we actually had a concrete progress moving on. And I asked because this building is used regularly, and without bathrooms, especially in the winter, it's really difficult for the community. And they can't just like shift to another building.
And we're not, that's one of the small projects that we have done is design build, facility build. They have their own architect. So we don't have to do design and then put it out to bid. They have a state contract, so we can say, okay, this is our budget. What can we do? Do we have to paint? Do we have to do this to make it happen? But we can sit down and negotiate with them. We don't have to put it out to bid and then have it come back too high, put it out to bid again, change the scope of work. So as soon as we have the funding, we can sit down and talk with our contractor and say, this is what we have, this is what we need, this is what we'd like. And so.
Thank you. I'm concerned because they've been torn up since like last summer or fall, and as spring approaches, the executives and executives, they'll be having meetings there, annual meetings there. And I mean, I was at one of those last fall, and it was a long meeting, and there was food after, and I left because I had to go to the bathroom, and there was no bathroom.
Yeah, no, I understand, and we really should have, to be using the building, there should be porta potties on the outside of the building, and one of them being ADA compliant. But that's on us, not on the general. They have a porta potty there that's there for the employees, which we can't use, but technically we should have if we're going to use the building. And I know, it's like Arroyo Seco, they'd like to make their bathrooms ADA compliant. Well, if you're tearing them apart, you're not supposed to be using the building unless you have facilities. And so it's something our community centers need to start understanding about that kind of stuff.
I totally hear you, Richard, and thank you. I just know that for folks that are a little further out, it's harder to find an alternative location to meet. There really isn't one there. So thank you.
Okay.
Commissioner Vehil.
Yes, thank you. Can you give us an update on the Ag Center? Are we going to be able to use those buildings, spaces?
Ag Center, so the classrooms have been final inspection. We did not get a final inspection on the kitchen because of COVID, water from the town, all kinds of things. So I've been speaking with Facility Build, who was our contractor for the classrooms, to see what it would cost them to pick up the finishing the kitchen area to get it inspected. We have everything in place. Basically, we need base cove, we need to have electrical final and a plumbing final, and we'll have to get a new permit because we let everything expire because of COVID.
Yeah.
And so I'm talking to them to get us a number. It's not a whole lot of work. We have our phone lines in, we have our sprinklers in, we have our fire alarm in. We have to get a fire alarm monitoring company. That's something that normally would come out of facilities budget. Well, what I did, like at the Veterans Cemetery, we did a change order and had them bill us for 1 year's monitoring right away. So we have monitoring at the Veterans Cemetery. We need monitoring to occupy the Ag Center. We need monitoring on all our buildings, and I know our new facilities director is working on that because we're not in compliance with life safety on that aspect. So as soon as I get some numbers, I will be bringing it to the commission and saying, this is what we need. And I'd like to, that way we finish out with one contractor. Looks like we have a leak up on the roof that is going to be a little bit hard to locate because it's a flat metal roof, but we do have a little bit of water damage in one of the bathrooms, in the ladies' bathroom above. Other than that, like I said, all the plumbing works. We need final code base and inspections. And we let our permit expire because of COVID, and we were waiting for us to be able to hook in the utilities, which was the gas company, easements, and it just with COVID and everything. But all that is in place, and so really we just need to get a contractor to re-permit and get it finalized.
Great. Thank you for the
So
update.
I'm hoping this, now this spring,
That would be great.
depending on the fiscal year, we have the funding. It's not that big a deal.
Okay.
Anything else? Thank you, Richard. Appreciate the information.
Thank you.
Moving right along to item 13A, new business to be considered at future commission meetings. Is there anything that plays out? Seeing none, moving on to item B, commissioner announcements. Anybody have any announcements? Nothing on that. Moving along to item C, board and committee reports, North Central New Mexico Economic Development District. That's you. Go ahead, Commissioner Rush.
Thank you, Chair. I was in Santa Fe last Thursday and Friday for the North Central annual meeting. So 2 days packed full, a lot of stuff. I'll try to be succinct in the highlights. We, as regularly, had presentation from New Mexico counties and the New Mexico Municipal League on legislative priorities, which many of us heard at the conference the week before. Then there were a handful of special presentations, and I'll highlight just one of them because it was extremely interesting and I think very relevant to us, which was on disaster recovery. North Central has had, since the Hermit's Peak Calf Canyon fire, 2 emergency management specialists based in Las Vegas, and they have been helping with recovery, everything from communications to navigating federal bureaucracy to like securing grant money. And one of the things that they actually did was last summer when the floods hit Las Vegas and the city was down to a day and a half of water and was considering, do we evacuate the detention center? Do we evacuate the hospital? The emergency specialist who was there, and that's Jorge Martinez, who presented to us last week, was able to help with navigating that pretty awful post-disaster situation. They're also working with the Forestry Division of the State Energy, Minerals, and Natural Resources Department on removing hazard trees, the birch trees that might fall. So there's a $6 million grant that they got from the Forest Service, Emder did. And so they're working to do that burn scar kind of mitigation and cleanup. And the thing that we might want to note is that this team, this emergency management specialist team and recovery team, is available for project support. So as we prepare for what might be a frightening season ahead, we can lean on them to say, hey, here's what we saw after the fact, and here's what could help you if something hits you, and here's what could help you prepare better, avoid maybe disasters, and or recover better. So they've been working hard over there on site for 2 years, and it's just something we might consider like drawing in their support experience as we get ready for the spring and summer. And then we had a pretty extensive roundtable where Monica Beta, the executive director, asked different community members, different town councilors, county commissioners, county managers, economic development managers to present on a variety of topics. Councilwoman from the town of Taos, Marietta Fambro, and I were asked to talk about housing. And we teamed up to do that, which was kind of fun. And I think that alone showed how we're kind of working together on some of these issues. So I talked about what the county is doing in terms of the 9 acres we've got behind our complex earmarked for workforce housing, the short-term rental ordinance, which is probably one of the most aggressive in the state, our land use regs updates, and our contract with Taos Housing Partnership. Talked a little bit about all the work Taos Housing Partnership is doing to kind of lay a foundation for the housing work in our community. And also talked about the 100% Communities Housing Action Team, which brings everyone kind of together. In some months, it's just simply sharing updates, but we talked a lot about the importance of that dialogue. It's like, okay, if the town's doing this, or if Taos Behavioral Health is doing that, or Dream T is doing this, like, does that mean that someone else should step up and support them? Does that mean that someone else should do the same thing, or hold off and wait till they're done with their thing? So we talked about those kinds of collaborative and coordinating efforts in the community. Some of the other things we heard from the roundtable on the topics that included like economic development and community health and safety and youth development. We heard how Raton is really focusing on creating a place where families stay and their kids stay. And they're doing that by like the film school that they're just about to get going with. They're focusing on parks for families, especially with toddlers, who like some of the other parks around like aren't really necessarily focused on those kiddos. And they talked about their fire chief, who is recruiting like basically straight out of their high schools. And so it reminded me a little bit of Rocky Mountain Youth Corps. It's like, okay, he's hiring these new firefighters, but also bringing them along and kind of training them in how to be an adult. You know, here's how you have a bank account for your first paycheck, and here's like the other life skills you can build, which is kind of cool to hear. Another thing we heard about was from Rio Arriba. They're using their opioid funding for a social services director who is specifically focused on post-opioid response, particularly dealing with unhoused population in the county. So it was interesting to hear like examples. There were just like a ton of rich examples of what other communities are doing with their projects. And I think sort of noteworthy thing was there was a representative from the Federal Reserve Bank who he didn't present any economic outlook or any kind of thing. He sat in the back and listened to all of these things that our communities are doing. Like, what are the projects that we're having success with? What do we need? What are our opportunities? Because it's his job to go back and help like direct federal policy to support some of our stuff. So who knows what will come out of it, but it was pretty cool. Monica Beta is a member of one of the Federal Reserve Bank's committees, I think, community development, I'm not exactly sure, don't remember. But she had invited him and he like took it all in. So just a couple last things. We had reports from the North Central directors, including Felicity Fonseca, who oversees the grant and technical assistance program. And we've probably talked about these numbers before, but they're so cool, I'm gonna repeat them again. Over the last 2 years, Felicity's team has brought in 70 awards to our region, totaling $62.5 million. That's amazing. And her work is done, funded by an annual legislative appropriation of $350,000. So if you ever hear of that being left out or reduced, we need to fight it, because I've never heard of a return on investment better than that. The state invests $350,000 and our region gets $62.5 million in support and projects. That said, I'll just end on the last note that the dues for all of this good work for us might be going up a bit. They haven't been raised in 10 years. So the executive board of North Central has been looking very carefully at how to do that in a fair way. It's been done by population, which might seem fair until you start thinking about like, okay, Los Alamos population versus their budget and revenues. So they're looking at a way of, and they're still going to be pretty low in the big picture, but they're looking at GRTs as a way to set dues, which I thought was a pretty innovative and frankly rather fair way to do it. So stay tuned, because if that comes about, it'll come before us to consider. So So, and if you have any questions about some of the other, like, really interesting community ideas that were out there, or would you like to see the presentations, like from the emergency response specialist, let me know. I've got it all at hand for you.
Well,
Thanks.
The individual that you just made reference to, would it be a cost to the county to have that individual come in?
I don't think so. And Brent and Chris or Jason, I'm not sure.
Are you talking about Mr. Martinez?
Yeah, Jorge Martinez.
Yeah, no, we're already talking to him and we're working with him.
And he did mention that, I don't know exactly how we're working on it, working with him, but when I asked him a question, he said that he'd already made contact.
Right,
with-
we had outreach to him last week or the week before, the week before last.
That's great to know because the community needs to know we are talking. Last question is, what do we pay for Dina?
$5,000.
Oh, yes, that's, okay.
$5,000.
Thank you. And again, the return on our investment, the support we get from the city and Talal and the team, is pretty valuable. Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions, concerns? With that being said, we'll move right along to item 14. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion to adjourn by Vice Chair Romero, second by Commissioner Brush. Madam Clerk, would you please call roll?
Commissioner Vehil,
Yes.
Commissioner Romero,
Yes.
Commissioner Brush,
Yes.
Vice Chair Romero,
Yes.
Chair Mascarenhas.
Yes. Thank you, guys.
We'll just go ahead and stay in here. We'll just wait around.
This conference is now on to be recorded.
Jason, did you bring Joe to talk to Mr. Gonzalez? Okay. Mr. Gonzalez,